All right, so the other day I said Volkswagen is on the brink of failure. And now a lot of people are saying, oh no, it's not possible. They're too big to fail, this, that, and the other thing. Really? You think they're too big to fail? You think Germany, who is going bankrupt currently and collapsing on their own, is going to bail out the auto manufacturer? They might try. They might take on debt to bail out a failing manufacturer. But guess what? It's still going to be a failing manufacturer. Their sales are still down. Their demand is down. Everything is dropping. So let me just read a couple bullet points here. So lately, they're cutting workers. The chief financial officer said they got 1 to 2 years to get back on track. Interpret that how you will. They're announced that they're cutting wages, 10% and up on some of their employees. So if you work in one of the factories, your wages are getting cut. In the 2024, with record inflation around the world, cutting wages. You think people are going to stick around? They in the last 18 months, they sold 25% of premium Porsche stock to a, private equity company. Porsche just announced that they're no longer using one of the Volkswagen factories to build some of their higher sellers, some of their more bigger production models. China is in a downturn, so they are not buying German cars. Historically, they always bought a lot of German cars because the Chinese like the German cars, but it's a mix because China's in an economic downturn right now, but they're also building cars that are better than many German cars. That could be debated, of course. They just announced that they are closing 2 to 3 plants in Germany, which they've never done. And mind you, they only have 10 plants in Germany, so they're closing a significant amount. They actually, a few months ago, announced they're closing 1 to 2. Now they're like 2 to 3. We'll see where that trends to. They're lowering the output of other facilities, so they're closing a few, but they're also cutting back on production. They're trying some direct-to-consumer stuff. They're announcing that with the Scout, and then they're also going to end up in a lawsuit with their dealers. Record low sales. The stock is way down. Profits are way down. And China is just crushing them. All of Europe, everyone in Europe saying, I see more and more Chinese cars, more and more Chinese cars. It's all over. Yeah, because Chinese cars are produced far cheaper, but that's only part of it. From all other metrics, they appear to be a more high-tech, more well-built vehicle than what the German workers and what the other factories are building. And then you look at things like Audi. They just discontinued their R8, the V8. Lamborghini Huracan is on its way out. Those were huge flagship cars. I don't know the numbers offhand, but those were sellers. The new cars are going to be like a hybrid mix, electric and stuff. They might not be the sellers like that. They might not hit quite like the V10 Audis and Lamborghinis. Those were hits. So those are some of my thoughts on to why I think Volkswagen doesn't have long left. I mean, they even said it. They said 1 to 2 years to get back on track. You can interpret that how you want. I interpret that like they are completely off track, and if they don't get back on in the next 2 years, they're going to be really selling that company for parts. They're going to be stripping it down and selling it off. And the debate is, yes, they have a lot of assets to sell, but you need a buyer for those assets. So if Mercedes sales are down 50%, they're not a buyer for one of these other brands that Volkswagen has. They're not a buyer for Audi. They're not a buyer for whatever, Porsche, the rest of it. You have to have a buyer for those things. So it'll be interesting to see how that rolls. It's not looking good for them, and it's not looking good for quite a few car manufacturers. So we'll see what happens.